guys, what's going on? It's Akira Ari Mayy J here, and welcome back to my channel. Thanks again for joining me, Mayflower Army. I know it's been a while. It's been about a year, to be quite honest. Last June was the last time I uploaded anything to my channel. But before I get started, as always, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it, or just give it a thumbs up in general. Share it on social media with all your friends. Leave some feedback down below. I always enjoy comments. And also, don't forget to hit subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I upload a video just like this one, because, let's be honest, I'll probably never be a frequent uploader again, ever. But, yeah, that's enough of that, so let's get on with the video. So, this is one of my life update videos that I haven't done one of these since 2017. I took it took like 6 months off 2017 from some stuff that was going on. But this is just going to be a life... Sorry if I'm rambling, and I'm a little jittery and nervous just because I haven't made a video in so long. But, so, let's get on with the video. So, this is my life updates. So, I think it's like 6 things I wanted to cover. So, the first thing I'm going to cover is my living situation. The last time I recorded with you guys, I was still living with my dad. Well, I ended up moving in with... You guys probably remember Donnie and Kayla, right? They were in a couple episodes. They were in the first 2 episodes of Akira Ari Mayy J Uncensored. They each had their own episode telling their story. And then they were in one of my breast augmentation videos. So, I ended up moving in with them early June. And it was great living with them. I truly enjoyed it. And I credit them. I'm not going to say why, but I credit them for saving my life on 2 different occasions. It was some personal stuff that was going on. And I wasn't close to death, but the type of situations I was in probably inevitably would have led me somewhere close to death. And it may sound like I'm exaggerating, but I'm honestly not. I'm not going to get, that's for another video. I'm sorry, situating my blanket. But I may eventually cover a video on what was going on and why I credit them for saving my life. But I've told them before, and I'll tell them again if they watch this video, which I hope they do. I love you guys. Thank you so much for everything you did for me last year, from taking me in to everything you did for me, and just being good friends. You're 2 of my best friends for a reason. I love you both. I lived with them from beginning of June until I think it was like mid-October. And then in mid-October, you also probably remember Shal. She was in the 3rd episode of Akira Ari Mayy J Uncensored about cosmetology. Go and check that out. But, so in October, she came to me with the idea of getting an apartment together. And I was like, okay, I actually like that idea. So we met for lunch later that week. It was a Friday. And she had found a place online that was absolutely gorgeous, which, spoiler alert, that's where I'm at right now. So you'll probably see where this is leading. But she ended up, I think it was, she messaged the people or called them, and so she found it on Friday on Facebook. We went for lunch. We set it up to look at it with the girls. They subleased it to us. So we found it Friday. We looked at it on Sunday. We absolutely fell in love with the place. This is one of those places in Morgantown that it's privately owned. It's in a great location. It's affordable. Some of the utilities are included. Like, this is the type of place, and it's so spacious and has a huge deck. I'll give you guys an apartment tour, probably today, to be honest, because I'm in a mood to record. So, we found the place, and it was just, we looked at it, we fell in love. It was one of those places we could not let pass up, because this place wouldn't have lasted very long. They had several people interested. We were like, we want it. So, they gave us the landlord's information, and on Monday, we gave them our info. We passed, they don't do credit check, but they just did background check just to make sure we had jobs and references and all that good stuff. So we looked at it on Sunday. Monday we passed everything. Tuesday morning we signed the lease. So within Friday we found it. Sunday we looked at it. Tuesday we signed the lease. So within 4 or 5 days we had the place. And we were so excited. And I'll tell you one thing. Living with Shal and her boyfriend Mikey has been the biggest blessing. They are they are the 2 greatest roommates I've ever had, and anyone could ever have if they had the pleasure of living with them. There's been no drama living together. There's been no arguments. There's been little disagreements, but It's about stupid little stuff that you're going to disagree about and get into little disputes about. Not fights, disputes about just little stuff in the house, like food and just stupid stuff like that. So, I've told them this before, and hopefully one of them watched it, or both of them watched Chow or Mikey. I love you guys both. Chow, you're one of my best friends, and Mikey, you're pretty darn close at this point. Living with you guys has been a blessing. You guys are great roommates. You guys, we vibe so well together. I am truly grateful I've gotten the chance to live with you guys. Unfortunately, they're not going to be living with me much longer. They got their own place. And, like, it's like their own place. Like, they own it and everything. And I'm so proud of them. I'm so happy for them taking this next step in their relationship and in their life. I'm proud of you guys. I love you guys both. I'm so happy I've gotten the chance to live with you guys. And just thanks for being such a pleasure to live with. So, come July 1st is whenever they have to be out by June 30th. July 1st, I have a new roommate moving in. I'm not going to say a name because just in case, like, right now, if you watch this, it's nothing against you for not mentioning your name. I just want to make, once we sign that lease, then I'll announce on my channel who my new roommate's going to be. And this next roommate moving in, it's going to be my last one because after signing another, depending on, I might live for another year or two. So, like, I'll sign another probably, after I sign this lease, I might sign one more. But after that, I want to get my own place. I want to get a place for me to grow, for my animals to grow. I'll mention that later in the video. You can probably see in the title. And if you have me on social media, you know I have quite a bit of animals now. I'll talk about that. That's going to be the last thing I cover in the video. But I want a place for me and my animals to grow and just have our own space. So after this next roommate moves in, it's going to be my final roommate ever. Whenever I eventually get married and have kids. That's when I'll end up having another roommate. But until then, after this next roommate and after another lease or two here, I'm finding my own place, and that's going to be that. So the next thing I'll cover, that covers the living situation. Like I said, so when I lived with Donnie and Kayla, I was living in Uniontown. When I was living with my dad, I was still in Port Marion. And then I was still occasionally staying at my mom's house in Morgantown. And now I have my own place in Morgantown again. Morgantown's my happy place. I truly love it here. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else, honestly. Like, eventually I would love to relocate to, like, one of my dream destinations, like Cali, like Bakersfield, California, specifically. But until then, I'm beyond happy in Morgantown. It's close to everything. A lot of my friends and best friends still live in PA, and I don't get to see them all the time, and I do miss them. You guys know who you are. But Morgantown's just my happy place. Just for my sanity and for myself, Morgantown's the best place to be. So, the next thing I'm going to cover, it's not really a big thing. It's just my car. I no longer have a car. And you're probably wondering what happened to this car, because I've had so many. I've had, I think it's 14 cars. Don't judge me. Made a lot of bad decisions with cars. But, so this car, last time I recorded, I had my Cavalier. And in July, I got T-boned, and the wreck wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. Like, I only ended up with a concussion. My car should have been totaled. Like, I should not have been driving my car after the T-bone I got, because the passenger window got smashed in, the frame got bent, the pillar got bent, you couldn't open either passenger side door, front or back. The car was pretty messed up. So I drove my car around like that for about 3.5 months. And then finally in October, my brake lines went out, and I was like, okay, that's it. I'm calling it quits with this car. I'm done. So I parked at my mom's apartment complex, and I was eventually going to either scrap it or sell it for parts. But her apartment complex unfortunately towed it because they thought it was an abandoned vehicle. And we called the impound lot, and the amount to get it back was way more than it was worth scrap-wise or part-wise. So I just cut my losses, and there went car number 14. So so far I've covered the car and living situation-wise. By the way, sorry if I sound a little nasally. I don't know if I do. I feel like I do just because it's Morgantown. It's beginning of spring. Allergy season's in the air. And I feel like, not death, just I feel so bleh when it comes to just like sinuses. So the next thing I'm going to cover is my job. So as you know, the last time I recorded was The last time I posted about my job was the very first day at my job, Cheddars. Well, good news, I'm still at Cheddars. I hosted there until January, and then I've told many of you about this before. I don't know if I've ever talked about it on my channel, but being a waitress is one of my dream jobs. I've always wanted to... Sorry guys, I needed the drink. My throat was getting a little dry. But anyways, being a waitress is one of my dream jobs. I think I've mentioned it on here before. But, so in January, I finally was given the opportunity to become a waitress. And it's been a dream come true. I've been waitressing ever since January. I've only hosted once since then, but I made it clear to the restaurant, I don't want to host anymore. I did that for almost 4 years between Red Lobster, 2 different Olive Gardens, Texas Roadhouse, and Cheddars. I didn't want to host anymore. So I started looking for a second job, and one of my managers was like, hey, I heard you're looking for another job. Was able to talk to him, and thankfully I no longer host. I've been making the best money I've ever made in my life, so I'm in a good place financially. And just, I may crack jokes about Cheddars, and like at work with my coworkers or like outside of work, I may crack jokes about it. But all in all, I truly do love Cheddars. I love the people I work with. I love what I do. And I love my managers. So all jokes aside, what I crack, like if any of my coworkers watch this, I love Cheddars so much. And I'm going to be there for a while. I've told myself, no matter whatever restaurant I worked at that let me serve, like gave me that was the first restaurant to give me the opportunity to serve, whether it would have been Red Lobster, one of the Olive Gardens, Roadhouse, or Cheddars even. I told myself I was going to stay there for a while. And lo and behold, I'm going to be Cheddars gave me the opportunity, so I'm going to be there for a good while. Not forever, but I will be there for a while. I don't know what I'm going to do career-wise. I may end up serving the rest of my life. I don't know, because you make really good money doing it. But who knows? Time will tell. Life will tell. We'll see where everything goes. But, okay, so far I've covered Cheddars, the car situation, and where I'm living. So next, I'm going to talk about haunt season. So, haunt season, as you know, 2017 was my last year at Freight Farm. I think I announced that on my channel before, I don't know, but 2017 was the final year at Freight Farm for me. I'm very bitter about how my time there ended, but that's for another video, or just not for video at all, because it may cause a little drama. I'm only bitter how my time there ended, because I was there for 5 years, 6 seasons, 2012 to 17. I loved it there. I said this was for another video, or not a video at all, and here I am telling you. I'm not going to go in detail, but I'm just bitter because whenever I wanted to leave Freight Farm, like when I knew I was ready to move on from that haunt, or just haunts in general, I wanted to go out on my own terms. My last season sucked at Freight Farm. So, very bitter about how my time there ended. But, so Alyssa and Dan, who I've worked with the Freight Farm closely, with the Freight Farm, in 2018, I followed them. I'm pretty much part of their team now. Where they go, I go. And 2018, they moved to a haunt called Haunted Hollow. And it's up in Rockwood, PA, which is Somerset County, Pennsylvania. And for those of you who don't know where Somerset County is, it's where one of the 9/11 planes crashed in Shanksville, which is in Somerset County. I'm not exactly sure how far Shanksville is from where Haunted Hollow was. Haunted Hollow is in Rockwood in Somerset County. I'm not sure how far it is from Shanksville. I think it's like maybe half hour, something like that. But anyways, so real quick, I want to give a little shout out to Alyssa and Dan for a second. Alyssa and Dan, like I said, I work close with them at Freight Farm, but this past year I got to work even closer with them. I got to really become a part of their team. They taught me so much more than I already knew. Like I learned how to make costumes. I learned how to build sets. I learned how to paint sets. Well, not sets, scenes, I guess you should say. They gave me the reins and they let me run with it a little bit. Like I truly can't thank them enough for everything they've let me do and being a part of their team. In my mind, they're two of the greatest minds in the haunt industry's history, between the experience they bring, the knowledge they bring, the professionalism, and everything else. A lot of people have said a lot of crappy things about them to me, and then to others I know, and then it always makes its way back to me. Everyone knows not to say it to me, though, because they're good friends of mine, and I'll obviously defend them. Alyssa and Dan, I love you both. Thank you so much. I hope one of you guys or both of you guys watch this. Thank you guys for letting me be a part of your team. Thank you guys for teaching me so much, for taking me under your wing all these years, and I truly couldn't thank you guys enough for everything you've done for me and let me do with you guys. So thank you guys so much. So, Haunted Hollow was the biggest joy I've ever had the privilege of being a part of Haunt-wise. I mean, I've only been a part of 2 haunts, for God's sakes. But out of the 2, Haunted Hollow topped all 6 seasons of Fright Farm for me. There was no drama. In Fright Farm, there was always some sort of drama going on. Haunted Hollow, no drama at all. Everyone got along, and I mean everyone. Like, there was no backstabbing, there was no back-talking. Everyone in Haunted Hollow got along. All the actors were great to work with. All the actresses were great to work with. Makeup team, the other management team, security. Everyone was fantastic. And don't get me wrong, there were some fantastic people at Fright Farm too. But just Haunted Hollow, everything all around was absolutely, it was run perfectly to a T. Everyone was great. There was just, I made such great friends there. And there was no drama. It was just, I truly loved it. And I got to take even some of my friends with me as well to act this year, which was awesome. Some of my friends even from Fright Farm followed me up there and acted at Haunted Hollow for a couple nights. Throughout the season, it was a blast. So, Haunted Hollow was just fantastic. And you may hear me say was, as in like past tense, and 2018 haunt season. Like I said, I follow Listen Dan wherever they go. 2018, on to new beginnings. It's a mystery for me. It's a mystery in general. I will keep you guys posted on it. I hope you guys are excited. And this year, by the way, I will try to vlog during haunt season. Because every year, everyone's like, oh, do a vlog during haunt season, or show us like behind the scenes. Like the makeup area or costume area. And hopefully this year I will. Just during haunt season, I'm usually always a little busy. But the nice thing about Haunted Hollow was, Fright Farm was Monday to Sunday. And that got exhausting, doing 5 days a week. Plus, on top of the other job, it was always 7 days a week, and it was exhausting. Haunted Hollow, 2 days a week. It was Fridays and Saturdays. Given it was about an hour and a half drive, and boy, was it a tiring drive home sometimes. But I was so happy at Haunted Hollow. And who knows, I may end up going back someday. Time will tell. Anyway, sorry, I was looking at my phone and got a notification. So yeah, I'll keep you guys posted during haunt season. And by the way, my titles at Haunted Hollow, I was costume manager. I told you earlier I got to make costumes. And once the season started, like during the summer we made the costumes and whatnot, and once the season started, I got to be costume manager. It was challenging, but it was a lot of fun. I had help from Melissa, of course, because it was my first year doing it. She's done costumes for years, and it was my first year doing costumes. I think I did really well, and it was a lot of fun. It was something new, and I was also supervisor manager, which is my favorite thing to do. I love managing, but So far I've covered haunt season, car situation, my job at Cheddars, and living situation wise. So next we're going to cover something that you've probably seen in the title, and it's something you probably are surprised I didn't talk about on my channel before. So last year, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. Sorry, I got another notifications from my work app. Anyways, so my mom was diagnosed with cancer last year. And that's a big announcement. I usually would dedicate the whole video to that, but it was a lot to deal with, and it's been a lot to deal with. We've all been there for each other, and we've been there for my mom. It's been a long journey, and I'm gonna make a video with her on it. It's gonna be an episode of Akira Ari Mayy J Uncensored, talking about her journey so far and leading up to diagnosis, and just how she's personally felt during treatments and whatnot. So you're gonna hear from her firsthand. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it myself, but you'll hear a good bit of it from her. So, it was around my breast augmentation last year. It was either right before or right after my mom found out. She told me and my brother in May, but she found out that she had cancer. And going back to August 2017, she had this mass on her arm removed. It was on her right arm. It was somewhere around this area. And they went and did surgery, removed it. It was fine. Well, it was like January of 2018. It came back, and it was like moved up her arm. It was close. It was like either right on her elbow or right near her elbow. So they went and removed it in March. A month later, it's back. So they sent some biopsy. They sent some like a biopsy from the surgery out, like some of the samples, and found out it was cancer. And she told me and my brother in May. And so in June, they did surgery to remove the cancer. And the type of cancer she has is sarcoma. And sarcoma, if you don't know what it is, and whenever I say this, it's not like meaning in a bad way, just like a lot of times what you hear about... I'll be right back. Sorry guys, I got a notification from my work app and I had to go check it. But anyways, so my mom's cancer, she has sarcoma. And when I say this, I don't mean this in a bad way at all. Sarcoma is, when you hear of like kids having cancer, it's kind of like the kid cancer. And like I said, I don't mean that in a bad way at all. It's just like, that's how my mom described it to me. Like sarcoma, usually when you hear it, like it's usually kids get it. And it's usually either bone sarcoma, or there's bone sarcoma and there's soft tissue sarcoma. My mom has soft tissue, thank God. Bone is a little bit worse, just because like if it's in the bone, it's a little harder to treat, and it could lead to amputation, which was one word her doctor mentioned to us during her surgery. And so I went to her surgery with her last year, like it was whenever they removed the cancer, or as much of it as I could. I hadn't been to any cancer appointments with her or anything up until that point, but when I did, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And it was a lot to take in whenever I heard about it for the first time. Because, like, if you haven't been to any appointments with her, like, I hadn't been to any appointments with her, and then hearing one of her surgeons say, like, oh, if we don't get it all and the treatment doesn't go well, we have to do amputation. And hearing all that, it was scary. Like, it was a very scary thing. So during her surgery, they removed as much of it as they could. And so real quick, like, so a lot of you know, or probably all of you know, whenever they talk about, like, whenever they diagnose cancer, they diagnose as a stage. Like, they're stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the higher the stage gets, the worse the cancer is. Well, with my mom's, they couldn't really classify it as a stage of sarcoma. Because, so under the microscope, like, whenever they did the first biopsy from, like, her surgery, like, her first surgery back in March, it wasn't very aggressive under the microscope. But in her body, it spread just from, like, I think it was like a couple of spots, like lymph nodes in her armpit or something. And it spread all the way down her arm like wildfire. It was wrapped around, I think it was muscles, nerves, artery. It was wrapped around a bunch of stuff in her arm, and they weren't able to remove it all during her surgery. So from her surgery, they sent a couple of the samples out to a couple specialists throughout the country, and specialists couldn't figure out exactly what it is either. So her sarcoma is a very different type of sarcoma. It's like they said, there's no stage to it. It's just, we just know it's soft tissue sarcoma, and it's very weird. So, hold on. Sorry guys, throat's really dry. Pretty sure it's from allergies and sinuses. But, so, since the cancer was acting really aggressive in her body and like spreading like wildfire down her arm and whatnot. Also during the surgery, they said they were able to get most of it, and they removed, I think it was up to like 50. It was close to 50 lymph nodes from her armpit, which now is left her with lymphedema, and she has to wear a sleeve so like her arm doesn't like swell up, because lymph nodes, I don't exactly remember what they do in your body, but I just know like she has to wear a special type of like sleeve fitted to her arm and her hand to make sure it's not swelled up, and she goes and sees a lymphedema specialist, and like they massage her arm and whatnot. And by the way, her arm's looking really good for all the treatment she's had. Anyways, I'll get into the treatments now. So the treatment she had 24 rounds of radiation over the summer last year. She started in, I think it was mid-July, I want to say. She started her radiation, and radiation was a little rough because they left her with obviously radiation burns and whatnot, and she had to go every day. She went every day. The radiation treatments I don't think were very long, but she had to go every single day for radiation, and getting radiation like that, it'll take its toll on you. So she had a bunch of welts and blisters, and just her skin looked like she had a real bad sunburn. And once that cleared up, once all the radiation blisters and everything cleared up, she started she started inpatient chemo. So they had her planned on doing 6 months of inpatient chemo and 6 months of outpatient chemo. Her inpatient chemo started in October. It started, I think it was like second week of haunt season for me. And with her inpatient chemo, what she did was she went to the hospital. She stayed over. Was there 5 days. She got blasted around the clock while she was there, and on the 5th day she would get out. And with chemo destroys your immune system, and you eventually have to build your platelets and blood cells back up, and your hemoglobin and everything. And with no immune system to fight it, like during cancer treatments and chemo, it's pretty common to spike fever. And during her chemo, I think it was on four occasions, 4 of the 6 months she did her inpatient chemo, she ended up back in the hospital a second time from a fever. And just like sometimes it wasn't anything bad. Sometimes she was out in a couple of days. But her first time she was there back in the hospital, so her first month, she ended up back in the hospital from a staph infection. She has a port in her chest. That's how they give her the chemo. So they do labs and everything like that. And it's just like a little port they insert in their chest, and has like 3 little tubes that come out with it. And like one of the tubes is for chemo, one's for blood, and one's for medication, just other stuff like that. There's like 3 or 4 tubes, I do believe. I think I got that right. But anyways, so her first month of inpatient chemo was the worst because she ended up back in the hospital with the staph infection, and then they sent her home on IV antibiotics. And the IV antibiotics at home is a nightmare because they don't give you an IV stand. You have to rig something up yourself. And just, even if you have someone help you, which like me and my dad and my brother, we all helped her around the clock with that. But it was still difficult because like sometimes her tube would get a bubble in it, and we wouldn't be able to get the medication to go through the tube. And it was an absolute pain. She got through it. And so she did outpatient chemo. She did, I keep calling it outpatient because she just started outpatient chemo. She did inpatient chemo from October to March, 6 rounds of it. And so in March, she ended up back in hospital, of course. She was under there a couple of days and she got out. And unfortunately, she ended up in there on my brother's birthday. But, so she had her PET scan. It was, I think, March 20th, she had her PET scan. And about a week later, she had she got her results back. And this was like her first big PET scan since she did any sort of treatments, if I recall correctly. So during her PET scan, they checked everything in her arm, and we're not out of the woodworks yet, but we got a pretty good thumbs up. There's a couple little spotty things in her arm, which could be from the lymphedema. But they're going to monitor that pretty closely with frequent MRIs. I think every 3 months, they said. So the news when she texted me that at work, I just immediately started crying because it was just so good to hear. So we're not out of the woodworks yet, but we're really, really close. And I'm super happy about that. And obviously I know she is. And we still haven't gotten to celebrate, Mom, by the way, you watching this. We were supposed to go to lunch or something, dinner. We still haven't done so. But, so she started outpatient chemo this past week. Well, not this past week. She started it Monday. It's Friday right now as of time of recording. She started on Monday, and she goes 1 day every 3 weeks. And for about 6 months. And after that, we're hoping for remission. Fingers crossed. So, yeah, that's been her journey. It's, like I said, it's been a lot to deal with, and just when I say a lot to deal with, I mean it's just been really hard seeing her go through everything. And she's my Wonder Woman. She's the biggest superhero alive to me. My mom, I give her so much credit. But one thing I give her the most credit for is how positive she's been during all this, how uplifting she's been, how she hasn't lost hope once. She has not let it get her down. She has not showed any signs of giving up. She has just, I don't know how she does it. She's done it. I would be a mental wreck. But like I said, she's Wonder Woman. That's all I could call her. She's the strongest woman alive to me. Not a damn person can change my mind on that. I'm so glad to be her daughter, and I'm so glad she's my mom. It's just thinking about it, it's so surreal knowing that PET scanning came back pretty much clear. Like I said, we're not out of the woodworks yet, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed. And I appreciate everyone. I don't believe in praying myself, but everybody who sent my mom prayers, like whatever your version of good vibes is, if your version of sending good vibes is praying, have at it. Everyone who sent good vibes, positivity, messages, called her, texted her, reach out to her, any of us, we all appreciate it. I know she'd appreciate it from the bottom of her heart. She has such a good support system. Like her friend Lisa, her friend Stephanie, her friend Diane. Her sister Kelly, who is my aunt, who, as you know, in the past on my channel, I've said some harsh things towards her. But Kelly, if you watch this, which I don't think you will, but if you do, I'm sorry for everything. I know I've apologized before, and I'm truly grateful for everything you've done for my mom during this. And just her friend Matt, my brother, my grandma. I mean, I can name a list a mile long. Just we're all so appreciative of it. Like I said, you'll hear a video from her and talking about her journey and everything and how it's affected her and everything and her outlook on life. Because I know it's changed her outlook on life. She's always had a good outlook on life, but I know it's changed it a little more. So just from the bottom of my heart, thank you, everyone. I know I rambled a little bit about her cancer, but just it's something that's, like I said, the biggest thing to happen in my life. And I've done some things I'm not proud of to deal with it, like I started self-harming again last year, which it wasn't a good way to deal, but again, it was a way I coped with it. And I coped with it in a couple other ways that were not so good that I'm not going to mention on my channel. But she showed me how strong she could be, so I've had to be strong for her. So the final thing I'm going to cover in this video is the biggest thing in my life. It's the one constant out of everything that's been going on. Everything that's happened over the last year, like just bouncing around living-wise, and everything with my mom, and some other personal stuff that happened, like I said, I'm not mentioning on my channel. It's been the one constant that I know I can come home to every day I'm not here, and know that it's the one thing that makes me the happiest on this planet. My animals. I mainly have snakes now. My ferrets, unfortunately, I no longer have. I'm not going to mention what happened, like where they ended up at. But so my snakes, and you're probably going to say like, "Oh, Akira, you've had snakes before. Like you had Draven, you had Melano. Like you've had snakes. It's nothing new." Well, there is something new. I have now 10 snakes and a scorpion. And I'm going to tell you a little fun story about the scorpion real quick. So, when I was younger, I wanted the scorpion. I think I was like 12, 13. It was almost 13. It was 10 years ago, 2009. And I wanted a scorpion. And my parents said, if you want a scorpion, you have to go to the pet store and hold one to prove like you could have one. So, my dad, I'm pretty sure it was my dad, took me to the pet store when I was younger. And they put scorpion on my hand, and it stung me. And scorpion, like captive scorpions, they're not like wild scorpions. They still have venom. Their venom's like almost like a bee sting, depending on how your body reacts to it. And most of the time, it usually just makes you like really nauseous or really sick, really dizzy, almost like a flu kind of. Well, I ended up in the ER. I think it was that night or the next night. And so, long story short, I wasn't allowed to have a scorpion. It was always a pet I wanted. So I went to the pet store back in December with one of my best friends, Sammy. By the way, the scorpion is named Sammy after Sammy, since she's a Scorpio and I got a scorpion. Very generic, I know, but hey. Sammy's one of my best friends. She's like, hey, why don't you name it after me? It's like, you got it. So I have Sammy the scorpion, and I originally got 2 scorpions. I named them Sam and Sammy. Sammy was a little bigger one, and I kept them both in the same terrarium for about a month, and I was planning on separating them. And I went in their terrarium to check on them, and Sammy ate Sam. So Sam was gone, so now there's just Sammy. But, so snake-wise, okay. So I still have Draven and Melano. Draven is still as feisty as ever. She is still my little baby. I love her to death, regardless of how feisty she is. I still love her. Yeah, Draven's my little baby. Like I said, I couldn't live without her. She was, after Stone passed away back in 2012, he wasn't my first snake, but he was a snake I had for about 3 years, and after he passed away, it just, I didn't have another snake till Draven in 2017, in April, when I got her. It's been almost 2 years to the date now, since I've had Draven. And boy, she is not a little girl anymore. She is a big, feisty mama. Then there's Melano, who is, I don't think she's grown very much, because when I got her, she was still pretty big. She's chunked up a little bit, because she eats like a racehorse. But fun fact about Melano, she went a full year without eating. She refused any sort of, whether it was live, dead, no matter what temperature was, she refused a meal for over a year, because when I first got her, she ate one meal for me in November 2017, and then she didn't eat until I moved into this apartment in November of 2018. November 2018. So she went over a year without eating, and she's only skipped a meal a couple times since she's started eating again. I've had her looked at, and there was nothing wrong with her, just I really don't know what was going on with her. She was on a food strike, I guess. I've had her looked at by a vet, and I've had her looked at by my friend's Exotic Jungle, and like I said, there was nothing wrong with her, why she wouldn't eat. But thank goodness she ate again, and the only reason she's refused food is when she's shedding, and when snakes shed, most of the time they don't eat. But boy, is she a feisty, or she's not feisty, she is such a sweetheart. That's never changed about Melano. She's still my little baby. But, so now we'll get into the rest of the snakes. And you're probably going to meet them today, because like I said, I'm in the mood to record. And I've been wanting to make a video about the snakes for a little while. But I wanted to wait till their terrariums to where I was satisfied with them. Because for a while I was using reptile carpeting, and I know that's not really good for the snakes. In my mind, I thought it was more convenient. Like, I was thinking, like, oh, that's more convenient, like, it's easier to clean. It's not easier to clean, at all. With the substrate, I could literally just scoop it out, clean the little area, spray it down, just, like, make sure, like, everything's clean, make sure there's no urine, or make sure there's no more snake poop anywhere, and just get out with the substrate. Carpeting, I had to take carpeting out, I had to wash it, and it became a pain every single week. Like, it took a full day to clean the snakes' cages. Now, not so much. It doesn't take that long to clean their cages now, thank goodness. With the substrate, I mean, it still takes a little while because there's a lot of them. But that's why you never saw a video of the snakes, because I wasn't satisfied with their terrariums. I wanted to wait until they had substrate in their terrariums. Now, every terrarium, I'm happy to say, has substrate. $160 later to finish all the cages. Oh, excuse me. But, okay, so we'll get on to the snakes now. So there's Draven and Melano. First is Kylie. She is a Nelson's milk snake. She is such a little doll baby. She's so sweet. She's so docile. She's such a gem. And if you're wondering where her name came from Kylie Jenner. I was trying to think of a name, and I have another milk snake named Cairo, but I'll talk about what's going on with him later in the video. He's still alive, obviously. Nothing wrong with him. He's getting ready to go to another home, so he's the last one I'm going to mention, because I'm going to mention what's coming in his place. But, so I had Cairo, and I was trying to think of a name. Like, I was thinking about eventually breeding them. So I was like, oh, there's Cairo. Like, I'm weird when it comes to names. If I want you to be a mate, like, to another one of my animals, I'm like, oh, it has to be very similar. So there's Cairo. I was like, I'll name her Kylie after Kylie Jenner. So that's where Kylie came from. So So there's Draven, Melano, and Kylie. Next is Bali. She is my corn snake. I've always wanted a corn snake, but a lot of corn snakes I found are really feisty and not very friendly. When I went in to get Kylie, I was looking for a corn snake. But they, like, all the corn snakes they had, you couldn't put your hand in a cage without getting struck at or getting bit. And I was like, okay, I have one of those snakes already. I don't want a second right now. Draven has her days where she's friendly. She has her other days where she's a bitch. And I was like, I don't want another one of those right now. So I ended up with Kylie. I was like, oh, another Nelson smoke snake. Okay, I'll take her. But then when I went back a couple of days later, I went back for, I think it was like rats, crickets, or something. And they were just like, oh, by the way, we forgot to tell you we have this corn snake. And I was like, oh, now you tell me. So I ended up with coming home with, and a couple of days later, I went and got Bali. If you wonder where her name came from from one of my best friends, Donnie. And she's such a sweetheart. Like, she's fast, she's very energetic, she's very astute and, like, very alert to what's going on. If you walk past her cage, she's up, she will follow you, like, as you're walking around. She's a very clever and very interested snake. So, let me see, I always have to name them off, like, after, like, I name them, because, like, I always forget one, always. So, let me see, Draven, Melano, Kylie, Bali. Next, we'll cover the Mexican Black King Snake. That's the second most recent I got. So the Mexican Black King Snake, I got it from Exotic Jungle. I say it because the breeder it came from, I haven't exactly gotten to have it sexed. So the breeder never got to sex it. It's been still a little too chilly for my liking to take it back to Exotic Jungle to have sexed by my friends there. So I've had to just call it it. I sometimes call it baby girl, sometimes call it baby boy. I already have a name picked out for a boy or girl. If it's a boy, I'm going to name it Panzeram after the serial killer I found most fascinating, Carl Panzeram. Or if it's a female, I'm naming it Black Dahlia, because it's a pure black snake, and after the Black Dahlia murder case. Not the band. But, she is... I say she because most of my snakes are females. Like Bali's female, Draven, Melano, Kylie, all female. I'm hoping it's a female because I love the name Black Dahlia, and I'm not going to have another snake. I'm not going to find another pure black snake to name Black Dahlia. I mean, given Black Dahlia could work for a male, but I associate with it a female name because it was a female who was murdered in a Black Dahlia murder case. So, beautiful snake. By the way, there's going to be a little slideshow at the end with some pictures, just like what's been going on, like in life. Like I always include a little slideshow at the end of the video. And it's also going to include a little slideshow of the snakes. Snakes will be first, and then everything else will be second, because some people might just want to see the snakes. So, next is I got to end up with another boa. Draven's no longer the only boa in the family. So I end up with a boa. It's a boy. I end up driving, I think it was this really sweet girl. A friend of mine on Facebook tagged me in a post, and this girl was rehoming this boa constrictor, this red tail, and I was just like, the snake's so pretty. The distance got me a little bit, but since I've driven farther to get snakes that I'll talk about here in a minute. So I drove down. It was about an hour and a half away in the middle of the boonies in West Virginia, Clay County. So, drove down, my brother went with me, we went and picked him up. I named him the Elite, and if you're wondering, like, it's not just, like, Elite, it's the Elite. And the reason I call him the Elite is because, so, for anyone who watched my channel or comes across this video who's a professional wrestling fan, you'll know that on the Indies, there was a little group that was like, they were kind of like split off from the Bullet Club over in New Japan. It was Cody, formerly known as Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, Nick and Matt Jackson, and Kenny Omega. They call themselves like the Elite, and they have like a little YouTube series called Being the Elite. And they announced they're starting their wrestling promotion. Well, started their wrestling promotion, and they call it All Elite Wrestling. So whenever I went down and got the Elite, it was like maybe a week or a couple days after the announcement. So I named him the Elite in honor of that. And not just because of that, like, he's like, in my mind, he's the elite snake I have, or is one of them, just because he's so beautiful, his coloration, his pattern, he's so docile, he's so friendly. He's a little doll baby, so he's the Elite. So next is Manasa. And Manasa, a girl on Facebook gave it to me when I was looking for a name. Her name is some sort of snake goddess. I don't exactly know where from or like what part of the world the name came from. I just know it's a snake goddess. I looked it up and I fact checked it and it is true. So I named her Manasa. And she is a reticulated python. And for those of you who don't, sorry if I'm getting a little fidgety. I'm sitting on the floor and my legs are getting a little stiff. But reticulated pythons are the longest snake in the world. They can reach up to 32 feet in length. On average, usually they're like around between 15 and 25, usually. A lot of them, reticulated pythons, I know, like my friends who I know have retics, are usually right around like 18, 19 feet. So like that's usually the average, but they can reach up to 25 feet. And if you're wondering like, oh, where are you going to keep that big of a snake? The minimum enclosure they require, or not require, but a lot of people recommend, like if you read like forums or like people I know who have snakes, my friend's pet store, reptile community, a bunch of people, some people will disagree with it. Like for a while I didn't get a big snake because a former friend of mine used to, now I'm not going to get into that, but just made me feel like I couldn't handle a big snake, which I know I could, and I've had snakes for the last 10 years. And like minimum required enclosure or recommended enclosure is an 8 by 4 by 4. So 8 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot. So like 4 feet tall, 4 feet wide, 8 feet long. And so I'm having a couple custom cages built. Manasa's still a baby. She's about a year old. So right now I have her in a $150 enclosure. And she's going to be moving, she was in still a large, but a little bit smaller enclosure. She's going to be moving back into that in a couple weeks for a reason I'll discuss at the end of the video. But she is such a little sweetheart. She's a little nippy sometimes. Like, she's one of those snakes that she is quick to turn around and bite you and then just go on to being a little sweetheart. Before Manasa, I had only been bit by a snake twice in my life. My old snake Stone and Draven. Manasa's got me twice in the last week and a half. 2 weeks. So, Manasa's a little sweetheart. I love her. I've always wanted a big snake, and she's the first. She's a monster in the making, as I call her, because she will be 15 to 25 feet. Right now, she's probably maybe a foot and a half, 2 feet long, maybe a little longer, but roughly that's probably what she is right now. So far I've covered Draven Melano, Kylie Bali, the Mexican Black King Snake, Manasa. Let me think. Who else? Okay, so next we'll do my gopher snake. Well, there's a couple different subspecies of gopher snake. Mine's a Pacific gopher snake. They're native to like, obviously the Pacific side of the United States. They're commonly mistaken for rattlesnakes because like the coloration, the pattern on them, and like whenever like they're in defense mode, sometimes like they'll like wiggle their tail, and her hiss kind of sounds like almost like a rattlesnake, kind of. So they're commonly mistaken for rattlesnakes. She's feisty. She's a feisty little girl. She's finally settling in. She's finally slowly becoming a little more docile again with the more handling I give her. So she's a little sweetheart, like I said, or she's a little feisty sweetheart, I'll say. I got her from my friend Kaylee, which is also where Manasa came from. And we're also the snake at the end of the video I'll be discussing is coming from. And Manasa her name is Zarita. I don't remember where I found the name. I think I was on TikTok or something, and someone like had hashtag Zarita. And I was like, okay, I like that. I'm going to go with it. So her name is Zarita. And the reason I named her a name with a Z is because I got another snake the same time as her. Kaylee used to work at... By the way, you're going to meet Kaylee in a video soon. She's going to be in an episode of Akira Ari Mayy J Uncensored. So she has a bunch of exotic pets. You're going to get to meet them all. And I'm super excited about that. But Kaylee used to work at a pet store, and the pet store she used to work at also had a spotted python, which is the next thing we're going to talk about. And I named her Lillii-Roode. A friend of mine gave me the name on Facebook when I was looking for a name for her. So I ended up naming her Lillii-Roode. It just stuck. I liked it. So the spotted python, she's a little baby, just like the Mexican black king snake's also a little baby. So spotted python, she is a little baby. She's not feisty, but like most little snakes are like a little feisty because like, especially ones that come from pet stores sometimes, because like they're like people like, oh, poking on the glass, being a little freaking asshole. So some like snakes sometimes are a little feisty when they come from pet stores. Not always, but like bigger chains of pet stores, like little ones not so much. But and sometimes snakes are just feisty to begin, like little baby snakes are just feisty to begin with. Like Lillii-Roode, she's a feisty little girl. She is a sweetheart though. When she warms up to you, she's a little sweetheart. Okay, so let's see what I've covered now. So I've covered Draven, Melano, Kylie, Bali, Mexican Black King, Manasa, Lillii-Roode, Zarita. Cover the elites. Okay, so this brings us to the last snake. And I also covered Sammy at the beginning of the video, the scorpion. So, Cairo. He is... I don't want to rehome him. But... I originally wanted... So, okay. So, when it comes to snakes, I don't mind having the same two species of snakes. Like, two of the same species. Like, I have two boas, for example. Like, Draven and the Elite. But they both look completely different. They're different morphs, different colorations. And for those of you who wonder what a morph is when it comes to a snake... The way I've found it a little easy to describe to people is like, okay, so for example, dogs. You know how there's some breeds of dogs, but there's different colorations and different patterns of those dogs. Like German Shepherd, for example. Like German Shepherd, there's black shepherds, there's white shepherds. There's like brown and black shepherds, pure brown shepherds. So like there's different like colors of dogs. It's the same with snakes. Like there's same species of snake, like red-tailed boas, but there's different morphs of red-tailed boas. And a morph is just what we call, like what the reptile community calls, like different coloration of snakes. So Kylie and Cairo, I got Cairo first, and then I got Kylie. Cairo was the third thing I got. Like after I moved in here, I had Kylie, I had Draven and Melano, and I was like, I want to get a third snake. So I went and got Cairo. And... Cairo is a little sweetheart. He's an escape artist. I had him like a week and a half. He escaped. And we were all in the kitchen one night, and Shao looks at the counter and screams, Cairo's in the kitchen! Cairo's on the effing counter! So I went in the kitchen, and Cairo was on the counter. He was climbing like in between. I'll show you real quick. So over there, you can see those little slits in between the wall, and like that sign says just chill. On the other side of those slits in the wall is our kitchen counter. And he was climbing in between the very bottom slit, and he was climbing underneath the just chill sign and climbing up the fireplace mantle. So, Cairo is an escape artist, nonetheless. So, I love him. He has so much personality. He is so quick. And I wouldn't rehome him to just anyone. So, my friend Kaylee, I told you about one of my dear friends. How I met Kaylee was... So back in January, whenever I first found Lillii-Roode, when I found Zarita, she posted it, the Go for Snake in a reptile group I'm a part of on Facebook. And so like we started talking, I was like, I really want her. And then we started becoming really good friends, and then we started texting, and we pretty much text every day. Like Kaylee's become a really good friend of mine. Not even just about reptiles, just in general, she's become like a really good friend of mine. And she's like, oh, the pet store I work at has a spotted python. Like, so I sent her a list of a list of like my snakes I plan on getting over the next year and a half. My collection's done growing for right now. Oh, sorry, I got a notification from work. Anyways, so I my collection's done growing for now because my bedroom is full to the brim, and Shao won't let me put any animals out here, any reptiles out here. So, but when Shao moves out later this year and my new roommate moves in, right over here, where this futon is in my living room, there's 8-foot enclosure I told you about. I'm going right over there. I'm having 4 of them built. They stack. If you're wondering how I'm going to fit 4, they just stack on top of each other. So, in them, so anyways, I'll get back to the snakes real quick, and then I'll talk about the enclosures and like where everything's going to go and what's going to be coming. So, Kyra, my friend Kaylee, I started talking about how I met her. And like I said, we became really good friends. I got Ziliki and Zarita from her. Well, I got Zarita from her, and then Ziliki I ended up getting from the pet store she worked at. So kind of got Ziliki from Kaylee. And then I got Manasa from her. And then, so right before I went down to her house to pick up Manasa, if I would have known, I would have probably brought the extra cash with me and picked up the other snake I'm getting from her. So she really wants a Nelson smoke snake. When I posted about rehoming Cairo in a couple of reptile groups, she saw it. She's like, hey, I want your milk snake. So we worked out a little deal. She knocked off some money from the retake I'm getting from her. And so we're pretty much doing a trade and some cash. She's getting Cairo and a little bit of cash. And I'm getting a 9-foot-long motley reticulated python. He is such a sweet boy. You'll see the pictures at the end. I handled the entire time I was at her house. Besides maybe 15 minutes, I was handling him. He's so adventurous. He was just climbing all over me. He was climbing everywhere. He's such a sweetheart. And I'm so excited to bring him home. Next Friday, or next Saturday, the 13th, he comes home. So, Kyra's going, that's where Kyra's going, and I'll still include a picture of Kyra at the end of this video, just so you can see, like, what he looks like, and you'll see, and then right after Kyra will be the snake he's being traded for. And like I said, Kaylee's such a good owner. Kaylee's such a sweetheart. She knows what she's doing. I wouldn't rehome Kyra to just anyone. Especially because like Kyra's a really fast snake. He's an escape artist. I wouldn't rehome him to just anyone because some people might not know how to handle a really fast snake. And Kyra's a really fast snake. Like when you hold Kyra, you have to move your hands with him 24 for usually a good 15-20 minutes before he finally calms down. Like he's so adventurous. He wants to go everywhere. He's just, like I said, he's very friendly. He's very, very curious, very, very quick. So you have to move with him, and then eventually he gets comfortable. He'll settle down in your hand or on your shoulder or something. But, so like I said, I wouldn't rehome him to just anyone. Kaylee, she's such a good friend of mine, and I trust her to take care of him, and she trusts me to take care of the snakes. She's home to me, and I haven't proven her wrong, and she won't prove me wrong, I know. So, yeah. Okay, so anyways, I'll get into the animals that are coming. Okay, so I'm having 4 of those 8 by 4 foot enclosures built I told you about. So Manasa's going to go in one. By the way, the big reticulated python I'm getting, his name is Azrael. One of my best friends, Storms, came up with the name. She gave me the choice between Azrael and Osiris, and I was like, Osiris I've heard of. Azrael, I've never heard that name. Azrael is an angel of death. Osiris, the Egyptian god of death. So I was just like, I'm going to go with Azrael. I put a poll on my private Facebook page, and a lot of people voted for Osiris, but a lot of people also voted for Azrael. Azrael won the poll, so that's the name I went with. It's like, okay, Azrael, that's it. That's the name I'm going with. So, Anyways, so Azrael and Manas are going to go in one. And then, okay, so I've always wanted an animal, like a lizard, that can roam the house. Whether it would have been an iguana, whether it would have been a Savannah monitor, which is a dream animal of mine. But will I ever get a Savannah monitor? One day, probably. But a tegu. I don't know a ton about tegus. I've heard of them, and then I've done some research on, I've watched some YouTube videos on people with tegus, and I've looked a couple up. And there's different types of tegus, but I asked Kaylee, I was like, hey, like, what do you think I should get? And she's just like, a tegu. And originally I was going to get, like, a cage like my ferrets used to be in. I don't know if you ever saw what the cage was like, but it was still a little small. So I'm just like, okay, I'll just have another 8x4 foot enclosure built. So I'm going to put the tegu in there. It's going to be on, the cages will be stacked on top of each other. The tegus will be on the bottom, and then they'll stack up. And when he's a little bit bigger is when I'll let him start roaming the house. Some people have a dog roaming the house. Some people have a cat roaming the house. I'm going to have a tegu roaming the house. And then in the last one, I'm either going to put a Burmese python, a false water cobra, or something of that nature. I'm not sure what exactly yet, but one of the two will end up in there eventually. And then eventually I'm going to have a couple more, in a couple years, once Draven and the Elite are pretty much fully grown, because they're big. They're about Melano size right now, like fat-wise and length. They're about Melano size. But I'm going to wait a couple of years until I'm in a place of my own. And where they're going to end up at is I'm going to have another couple 8x4 foot enclosures built for Draven and the Elite. So, but for now, either a false water cobra, a reticulated python, or a Burmese python is going to go in the fourth one. The other two, Manasa, Azrael, and then a tegu. And then a couple other snakes. Sorry, my brother called me. But anyways, so a couple other snakes to look out for. Asian vine snake, crested gecko. Not sure that's not a snake, but just Asian vine snake, crested gecko. Like I said the false water cobra and tegu already. A Brazilian rainbow boa. Hopefully another sunbeam snake. Which reminds me, you're going to be getting a horror story video today as well. I've been wanting to record. So Brazilian rainbow boa, hopefully, maybe sunbeam snake, maybe not. But the ones for sure you can look out for: Asian vine snake, hopefully a rough green snake, Florida green snake, Brazilian rainbow boa, the false water cobra. So yeah, keep an eye out for a couple new snakes. I'm not going to list all the snakes I'm getting, or also white lip python. That's another one that's going to eventually end up in the 150 gallon I have. So yeah, keep an eye out for everything. I am really excited to be back on YouTube. I have a couple really cool video ideas. Who knows how long it'll be before I go on another hiatus. It always happens. I'm not going to sit here and promise anymore that it never will happen. But, alright guys, I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for tuning in. Sorry I rambled so much. I will see you soon. Bye guys.